So when I was a little kid, a little boy who was born in Kentucky, I came into this world with a love and a connection to the Divine Mother. I just, it was something I had developed, this relationship, in previous incarnations. I didn't realize I had developed this. I thought it was normal. I thought it was a normal thing to have a loving, open-hearted, prayerful, contemplative, surrendered relationship with God. I thought that was normal. And in this funny job that I have, people remind me many times throughout the week that they don't have that. They don't know what that is. And I will say this: if you don't have that relationship, life will be much harder. Harder. Your heart is not meant to be alone. It's not meant to be alone. This path is not meant to be walked alone. You can, you're welcome to walk it alone. It's just like if you're going to climb a big mountain, you can climb a big mountain by yourself. But sometimes it's nice to have your dog with you, your buddy, your girlfriend, your brother, your husband. It's nice to have someone. Carry the weight. Pick you up when you fall. It's helpful. It's supportive. And so sometimes when we're seated here, I see folks who are looking so serious. You don't have to be so serious. And there's no judgment here. I tried to be really serious for a number of years, especially in the realm of meditation, and it just broke me. But I always had this relationship with the Divine Mother, with God. Called on help. Even while I was being serious, And then I realized, I don't have to do the serious thing. I don't have to do it. It's very helpful in the beginning to be serious, to get kind of your ducks in a row and gather up all of your energy, where it's spread out into all the crazy places in life where our energy can get spread out. So it's good to be serious and just look, well, what's important to me? And so we gather up all of our energy and we say, okay, I'm going to walk in this direction. But if you've ever hiked with someone who's like really tight and serious, and it's all about just getting to the top of the mountain, it's like, hey, kind of ruins the hike. Like, relax. Climbing a mountain, look how beautiful it is. Look how beautiful it is. And so if you've been serious, that's a good thing. Serious gets us here. In 2020, we have this strange phenomena of people relate to so much spiritual teaching through YouTube. And that's a beautiful thing. But through having just some general seriousness, it helps you, get from just your relationship with spirituality, from being, between you and you, whoever the YouTube teachers are. When we're serious, it gets us here. It says, okay, I'm going to make this an important thing. I'm going to fly. I'm going to travel. I'm going to take off work, whatever it is. And so that's a good thing. So use the seriousness and get here. Excuse me. But then you don't need to be any more serious. Let your seriousness just get you in the door, but then leave it at the door. Leave it at the door. When you're too serious, there's a thing that happens energetically. You lock your throat chakra, and your energy gets stuck here in your head. You're thinking, you're striving, and your gut gets all locked up, tight and tense. That I'm going to do this. I'm going to meditate real hard. I spent so many years meditating so hard. It seems like such a silly thing to do. A silly thing to do. If you're in prison and you're around, some other dangerous guys and you're locked up, it might be good, to get all zipped up tight and to be, one of those guys who's really hard. But we're not there. The spiritual path is an open-hearted, light-hearted endeavor. It's an innocent, yet profound endeavor. And when you step into innocence, this great thing comes forward and says, let me take your burden. Let me carry it. Let me take your struggle. Let me take your confusion. Let me take your control or your manipulation, your depression, your whatever it is. Let me take that. Let me do the work. So she came in the room and she whispers in my consciousness in a booming voice, let me take your burden. Let me take it. Give it to her. Give it to her. If we were good Zen people, we would say, relax. Melt into the silence. Let yourself be held in the silence. And realize you are one with the silence. Let yourself be held in the Divine Mother and realize you are one with the Creator, the love, the compassion, the innocence, the power, the majesty, the beauty of the universe. And it's a wonderful deal you get. You give her things you don't want. And she gives you the universe, the fullness of her heart, and shows you that is your heart. You give her something you don't want. And you get something incredible. Or you could say, I'm going to control. I'm going to figure this path out myself. I'm going to fight with myself or argue with sounds. Has anyone ever argued with sounds? You know, there's a sound, you know, whether it's hammering or helicopters or, you know, someone breathing. I've spent a lot of time arguing with snoring. You know, someone's snoring. I'm like, hours. I spent nights, many nights arguing with the sound of someone snoring. And so we can argue or we can open and be yourself. Childlike, innocent, free. And we have this choice every moment of our life. You could even realize your supreme Buddha nature, and then 10 minutes later, say, you know what, I'm going to try to control and argue and fight with my neighbor. My neighbor's lawn mowing machine, or his dog who poo-pooed in my yard. Whatever it is, you know, whatever it is. Sometimes we argue with brutal things. You know, like sometimes life gives us a cancer diagnosis. You know, sometimes life takes one of our friends. Sometimes life gives us a tough hand. And we can argue with that and really suffer. We can take our already suffering and make it suffering on steroids. Or we can look at our hand and then look at the mother and say, what's in your hand? Can you help me out with these cards? Can you help me out with this setup? Can you help me with this situation? Can you help me with my thoughts, with my critic, with the inner violence, you know, that I'm, you know, yielding on myself and those around me? Can you help me? And her answer is always yes. She may not give you what you always want, egotistically speaking. That's for certain. But I'm going to invite you just to play this game with me of trust. If she can make an ocean, you know, this vast Pacific Ocean, that can literally go all around the world and fill it with plants and, you know, trillions of beings. I'm sure she can handle our lives. Our lives. So a great question is, do you trust her? Do you trust life, the intelligence of life? If you're a Zen person, do you trust that Buddha nature is here in every moment? That there is a supreme intelligence that's here, a supreme love, a supreme compassion. Do you trust that? And if you do not trust that, fully, open-heartedly, in your bones, in the cells of your being, would you be willing to begin to open that door? Begin to have that conversation? Would you be willing to look at the ways you don't trust? Most of the ways you and I don't trust are ways that were given to us by our parents. Most of the ways we don't trust were given to us by our parents. If you have a very good, strong ego, your ego will convince you that those thoughts are your thoughts, that your controlling nature belongs to you, that you're, whatever the neurotic habit is within you, where you close a door between you and life. All of that was given to you by your parents, by the species. It's not even yours. The funny thing is some people fight really hard to hold on to something that they don't like, and it isn't even theirs. And she's trying to give you something much greater. She's trying to show you how big your heart is, how indestructible you are. Indestructible. Like we were speaking last night, one of the great ways that she shows you the unconditional nature of your heart and the indestructible nature of your being is she gives you something that is uncontrollable, overwhelming. And she wants to show you that you will outlive this experience. That there is something here within you already that will outlive this experience. And you can outlive that experience in a really gripped, tight, tense, controlling way. Or you could do it in a really numb, checked out, kind of, getting lost on Instagram kind of way, distraction kind of way. You can outlive the uncontrollable nature of life through, an addiction or through drinking or whatever it is. Or you can outlive it with a big, fat, open heart. You can outlive it with a vast, spacious Buddha mind. And if you did not figure that out the day you were born, you're welcome to call upon the mother of the Buddhas for help. the mother of the universe, for help. Hey, help me out. Show me the way. A little guidance or support here. Help me soften. Help me soften. Help me let go. Help me relax. Help me let go of this ancestral karma or conditioning. Help me. I've taken it too seriously. Help me. I believed it too intensely. Help me. Help me. Now, I will say this. For some folks, it's really hard to trust. Normally, there's a psychological reason. Normally, if we grew up in a house and our parents were not living saints, relaxed, carefree, loving, supportive, we look at our parents who are supposed to be, our gods, and we say, hell, I can't trust my gods. And so we begin to trust our ego. We begin to trust the fight or flight response. And when we make this fundamental mistake, that may be a wise thing, developmentally speaking, but when we make that mistake, we spend the rest of our life with a closed door. And if you want to know oneness, if you want to know non-duality, your non-dual nature, you cannot look out at life with a closed door. It doesn't work that way. And so if trust is foreign to you, what we discover on the path of Tantra is, I need to begin to develop some courage to open the door and see, is it okay if I open the door of my heart? Am I squashed if I open my heart again? Did anything squash me? So can I open my heart, or will I be squashed? Now let me clarify here, because the ego will oftentimes immediately say, oh my Lord, if I open my heart, I'll be squashed. And there's always a little bit of truth in what the ego says. That's the beautiful thing about it. There's a little bit of truth. If you open your heart, you will feel more. This is true. You'll feel more. And again, here comes the Tantra. If I'm going to walk this path, I have to be courageous. Am I willing to feel more? Keep in mind, the payoff is the discovery of unconditional love, unconditional Buddha nature. The payoff with ego is you convince yourself, I think, that you are safe if all 7 chakra doors are closed. I'm safe. But I don't think you're any less likely to be hit by life if all 7 chakras are closed. Maybe someone needs to do some math on that, but I don't think you're any less likely to be hit. So the ego's telling us this story. It's wired into every cell in your body, the fight or flight response. I'm afraid of being poked, prodded. Even little cells, if you go and you poke a little cell, like those little amoebas, they'll start to move in the opposite direction. Say, I don't want to be poked. I don't want to be messed with. And so even in a little cell, there's an ego. And see what God gave us this very strange setup. She gave us a divine soul, divine nature, and put us in an animal body. And then our job is, let's see if we can transform this animal body into a divine body. Let's see. Let's see. Let's see if we can transform the planet into another heaven realm. Let's see. Huge endeavor. Huge endeavor. For some reason or another, she set this thing up. She created an animal world and took a divine being, you and me, and threw us in an animal body. And gave us a choice. You can stay an animal through identification with the ego, or you can be a Buddha. A Buddha. And so what do you want to be? What do you want to be? In every moment you have this choice. What do you want to be? And so to make it very basic, if that's too, wild or crazy, do you want to be open or do you want to be closed? Do you want support from the creator of the universe, or do you want to do this by yourself? The wiring of the ego is, I do this by myself. And then oftentimes, because it knows that's not the truth, it complains that someone else isn't doing it for us, or that we don't have, a friend, a partner, a knight in shining armor to come along and save me and carry my way and all that kind of thing. Again, in all those illusions is a shred of truth. There is a goddess who will carry your way. There is an energy, a grace, a nature that will carry your way. That will do it for you if you allow. If you receive. And so, how are you doing, mister?
Doing good.
Are you coming alive?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's happening in you? What do you feel in your heart when you're sitting?
This morning.
Yeah. Or right now?
Well, I feel there's numbness.
Yes. Okay, so see, that's what I want you to look at.
Yeah.
To look at that numbness. So whenever there's numbness in our experience, oftentimes we'll get a little nodding in our meditation. And so look at that numbness. And what I want you to imagine, I actually had this vision this morning. I wanted to take this thing and shove it into your heart like a vampire. And so I want you to imagine just having your attention just like boom, like there's a stake in your heart. And say, what is this numbness about? What is this about? To really get to know it, to look at it, say, what the hell is that? Like, why is there numbness here? What is the numbness covering up? The reason I like to bring in this really graphic metaphor here is because I want you to see if you can bring all of your attention there. Say, what's that about? The beautiful thing, or the funny thing, the silly thing, the bizarre thing about a little bit of numbness, it can cover up something huge. There can be a whole realm within us that we have no idea about. And just a little bit of numbness can cover that up, can close the door. So when I was speaking about doors being closed earlier, this is, a great example of a door being closed. And sometimes it's, oh, there's a door that's closed here. I don't even know it's closed. You're obviously a very open, relaxed guy. That's clear. You're not, actively trying to hide something from yourself, are you?
No.
No. And see, sometimes these are the habits that were given to us. Sometimes it could be something that your father had this numbness within his consciousness, and then it literally came into your genetics, to your DNA, And so we realize, oh, this is my father's numbness. And, if we have a good, strong ego, then we can attack it, or we can meet it with love. If we have a strong superego, spiritual superego, we can judge it. Or we can be curious and say, look at that. What is that about? Like, why is there numbness in my heart? Why is there numbness in my heart? And please don't even feel like you're on the spot. All of us here on planet Earth have some numbness in our hearts. All of us. Numbness. Some of us have incredible rage in our hearts. And, for a good, I have a very strong spiritual superego that's really developed, we will zip that up, lock that throat chakra, be like, and then we do this one. I love this one. Swallow it, keep it contained in a little box around the heart, and just be a pressure cooker and try to find awareness up here. Up here or out there, somewhere besides here. It's a common one. I did it for years as well, by the way. So the reason, if I can speak here, that I know these things is because I've found all of this within myself. Numbness, deadness, rage, violence, genocide, craziness within the species. If it's in your neighbor, it's in you. Your neighbor may have more of it or less of it. But your job is just to notice what's in me. Where are their doors closed? Where are their doors closed? Where am I holding myself tight or tense? Tightness and tension is the body's way and your chakra's way of speaking to you. Your chakras are simply condensed manifestations of your true nature. They're like little intelligent Buddha minds. Each one is different. We'll get into that later. But with any of the chakra centers, if they are closed, which is normal, so don't think you're bad or wrong. But if there's any chakra center that's closed, that's your body and your chakras telling you, communicating to you, hey, I'm holding on to illusion too tightly. I'm holding on to some illusion too tightly. Too tightly. And an illusion that you're holding on to tightly in your heart will not wake up and or release or open through you keeping your awareness contained in your mind. Does that make sense? So sometimes we try to out-meditate pain in the body or closed doors, within the different chakra centers. And by out-meditating, sometimes we find a place to focus, say here, or up there, out there. And if we try to blast ourselves into the transcendent and think that's going to open all the doors inside, let me be at least the first one to tell you that will not work. It's possible it may work temporarily, but it will not work in an abiding way. So if there's any pain, numbness, confusion, so that makes all of us within the body, it's good to look at in a curious way. Why is that? The nature of the Buddha is compassion. So we are compassionately curious. Curious. What is that about? What's that about? What's that about? What is that about? And so I encourage you, while we're on this retreat, this is an embodied path, full body path, full experience path. So notice while you're hanging out, while you're walking around, what is going on in my nervous system? What's going on? What's here? Feelings and sensations are immensely important. What's here? Thoughts point to a different thing. If we have neurotic, habitual thoughts, oftentimes that means we are really not listening to our body. And so the places of pain in the body have to come up into the consciousness and the mind and start, making a ruckus, getting in trouble, creating chaos. Like a little boy or a little girl, if they're unhappy in their body and their parents don't pay attention, normally they start bouncing off the walls and getting in some trouble. They make a ruckus so that the parents will say, "Hey, is everything okay? Like, what's going on, sweetie? What's really going on?" And so if you have a really active mind, very neurotic mind, very controlling mind, it's pointing to something from your throat chakra down. And so scan the body and notice. The ego plays a silly game. It thinks that I can solve, this mental confusion through thinking a bunch. And we've all thought a bunch, and oftentimes the confusion keeps coming. The neurosis keeps coming. And so if you want support with all of this, it's good to start with some humility. Humility. And so with humility, you can gently scan the body with mindfulness, with openness, with compassion, with curiosity, and say, what's here? What is going on within me? What's going on within me? And if you have great insight, which arises out of your Buddha nature, beautiful. Listen to that insight. Follow it. If the insight doesn't come, by all means, ask for help. God, will you show me what this is about? Will you show me? Will you shine your light into my heart and show me, what is this numbness about? What is it about? Can you light it up? Can you illuminate it for me? What is it about? Can you show me in a dream when I'm walking down the street, when I'm sitting at the beach, when I'm sitting in traffic, can you show me? And she will. She will. Often, she is repeatedly showing us. But because we haven't stepped into innocence and humility, we have a hard time listening, hearing, seeing what she's trying to show us always already. The prayer and the asking her for help, that's just helping you, to have an intention of what you're doing. She's already trying to show you. And she will. She'll speak to you through your wife, your child, your sister, your brother, the barking dog, the whatever it is. She'll speak to you. Sometimes metaphorically, sometimes she throws it in your face. Like, hey, here's your answer. This is what this numbness is about. This is what it's about. And I'll tell you this, Jeremy, you are a bright guy. You're an open guy. So I want you to find out what this is about. And I will say this, watch the tendency to play the I don't know game. Watch that. It's one of the shadow sides of non-duality is I'm letting go into the space of I don't know. Which is a beautiful thing if you have a very overactive mind. But if you have a pretty silent mind, don't play the I don't know game. Play, I want to see what the hell this is. Why is there a veil covering the beauty of my heart? What is that about? And I want you to look literally like you have, I don't even know what you call that, a stake in your heart. What is that stake about? What is that? What is that about? Because you're getting too far on this path, my friend. Too far to be having this covering your heart. Too far. Okay, so you look at it. You see. And you keep looking at it. And you struggle with it. You open to it. Let it talk to you. So it's talking to you. Numbness is the body communicating, our heart communicating. It's saying something. It's saying, I feel dead. I feel shut down. I feel cold. So if we have that in our heart, I want to know why. Why does this bright light that I am have deadness covering it? Why is that? What the hell is that about? So you be very curious. Okay, thank you.
What deserves our attention?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, our world needs this, literally. It needs this, literally. And, I mean, I'll say this just from someone who lives, like, in the middle of nowhere on the side of a mountain. When I come to California and I see how many people there are in the world, it's crazy. 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 And it feels like we're just spinning so out of control, so fast. And we don't have to join that. We don't have to join that. So God has chosen you to cut a different path, to swim against the stream, to live a different kind of life. And it doesn't have to be a hard uphill battle. It's just a different kind of life. Our world needs it. Our brothers, our sisters, our children needs it. Every step you make benefits the world, literally. It benefits the collective, literally. That's the law of oneness. Every step you make literally benefits. And every step you take backwards, it just adds to the habit. It just adds to the habit. And so.
Really transformative.
Yeah.
And it just gets more subtle.
Yeah. And you become more empowered too, right? Yeah. So when we run away from something, when we ignore something, even if it's something little, when we ignore that, there's power there. There's power there that we don't get to use because it has it. But when you turn to face it, whatever the shadow is, you gain the power, you gain the energy. And so it's a beautiful thing. Like you said, it's transforming. Yeah. Was there something else you wanted to say?
I don't know if this is, I've been having these recurring dreams about snakes chasing me.
Oh boy.
And not for a dream interpretation, but it's very obvious to me,
Yeah.
It's one of those things where I really try to set the intention
Yeah.
to turn and face the snake, at least in the dream.
Yeah, at least in the dream. Yeah, at least in the dream. And so I've spent a lot of time talking about snakes and dreams. And I will say this. So it could be, it's possible. Snake oftentimes is kundalini energy. That's wanting to wake up. So it's starting to come into our consciousness. So it could be that. And, if any of you saw Wes, like earlier in the meditation, if you looked at his body, it was, like kind of, swirling around like a snake. So that's a real thing. And it's not something I invoke or invite, but it's something that happens on the path. It's very bizarre. And I'm not going to get too much into it now, but it's a possibility. But also, given our culture, Western, however you say that, Judeo-Christian culture, we have all this idea about, the snake and the devil and being bad, and so more often than not, it's just something we're afraid of. It's something we're afraid of. And can we look at that? Can we look at that snake, say, what's there? And be curious about it. A fun game to play in a dream is to let the thing bite you, let the thing kill you. Turn around and face it and see, oh, I didn't die. I did not die. I did not die. And normally it's in the facing it, that something greater comes. The energy of that metaphor gets released, and then you begin to see the truth that's there. Yeah, so play with that and just see. But whenever spiritual people tell me about snake dreams, I always get a little nervous. I'm like, oh boy, are we going to be doing the kundalini thing, or what's going on? So, oftentimes, if it's kundalini related, it'll come with pressure in the body, or a feeling of explosiveness. And if you don't have any of that, don't worry about it. Anybody else have anything they want to ask or share or correct? Suzanne. Yeah. Yeah, and that's beautiful because Suzanne, she just explained some of the the layers to it, that a lot of times we'll look at the heart, and this is another tantric thing is we'll look at it and it was like you said, filled with pain. A normal ego will say, I don't want to sit in pain. Who the hell would want to sit in pain? Not me. So I'll hang out in my head. Or I'll hang out somewhere else but here. That's a normal human response. Completely normal. But when we do that, it's literally like abandoning a crying child. It's literally like abandoning a crying child. It's not a good plan for the spiritual path to abandon the heart. And then like she said, once she embraced it, opened to it, what did I find? I found numbness. And sometimes with numbness, we'll look at it, or deadness, or maybe it'll just feel like nothingness, because that's another thing that can kind of happen in the heart. But your heart, if you feel into its true nature, it doesn't feel like nothingness. Your heart is a raging, brilliant fire. So if you look at it, see nothingness, and kind of hang out and check in a little bit, and you're just kind of like, I don't know, I'm going to hang out in awareness or in distraction. That's not the way forward. That's not a good choice there. It's good to be curious. Why don't I feel anything in my heart? Don't go into your critical mind and say, oh, there's something wrong with me. Maybe she gave me a bad one. What's it like? Why is my heart not brilliant? Why is it not overwhelmed with grace, love, radiant? So to be curious about it. And it takes, this is where some just, I like to use the word gentle with discipline. Gentle discipline is good. Oh, I don't really feel much in my heart. A good, strong ego will just get bored and leave it. Say, oh, there's nothing there. I don't like, nothing there. But again, that's not the truth. There's something great there in your heart. And so we keep sitting until we find this fire. And so if you look at that picture there, if you look at her heart, Chad, maybe you could do the show and tell. You can hold it up. So that's the kind of thing ideally we want to be feeling. That's the kind of thing. That's what's possible. That's what's possible. And so if we're just feeling like, I don't know, nothing really there. Look again. Take that stake, stick it in your heart. Say, I'm going to see what the hell is covering it. Because sometimes our heart is covered with a, I'll call it a mildly warm blanket of despair, of depression, armoring. And sometimes we wore that armor so long we didn't even realize, is there something under that? I thought I was the armor, right? It wouldn't make sense that we are the armor. It's the great sages and saints, they didn't come to earth and say, you are a bag of, a pile of rusty armor. That is what you are. That's not what they told us, right? They said, no, you're a child of the Most High. The kingdom of heaven is within you. Buddha said it's your very nature. innate goodness, radiance, luminosity is your nature. And so if we haven't found that, let's explore that and say, why? What's going on there? What's going on there? And so, I'll leave you with that question. What's in your heart? What's in your heart?